But good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here and just welcome. We know again it's a busy time of year, so we always are super happy to see folks as they're able to join us. We are here for our November Centering Servingness webinar. As always, we'll do a quick little intro and then really pass it on to our presenters who will present on the LAWtina mentoring program here at the University of Arizona. I'm Carla Silva, and I serve as the director for HSI initiatives here at the U of A. And I'm excited, as always, to welcome folks and our community so that you all can learn a little bit more about the different ways that folks are serving, serving this work, doing this kind of HSI work. So as always, we want to begin by recognizing and paying honor to the original inhabitants of the land of which the U of A resides. So this region here in Tucson, Arizona includes the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the Pasquayaqui tribe. We offer our gratitude in being able to share knowledge on these indigenous lands. Our work is informed by Dr. Gina Garcia's extensive body of work on the concept of servingness. So this webinar series features faculty, staff, and sometimes even students who engage in scholarship and servingness efforts that honor the cultures and lived experience of our Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and other underrepresented students and communities. So the goals of our series are threefold. So one, by spotlighting current scholarship, we offer examples of the rich ways in which servingness is enacted by faculty and staff. Two, we invite others, both, from our campus at the University of Arizona, but nationally as well, and community partners to learn about and engage in these efforts. And lastly, we build knowledge, right? So each month we address the question, what next steps are needed to build institutional capacity around HSI servingness? A little bit more about just the U of A. So we received our HSI designation in April of 2018, and we were the first four-year public university in the state of Arizona to become an HSI. We're again just really excited to hear from different folks. And so each year we kind of look to see what kind of work is being done and who we want to come and join us in this webinar. So the folks who you're going to be hearing from today and a part of this series represent some of the many individuals who have been consistently engaged in these intentional servingness efforts, and who every day, day in and day out, are striving to create an even more culturally sustaining experience for students at the University of Arizona. So it is my honor to introduce to you all some folks here on our campus who are embodying, right, this idea of servingness. And so for our November webinar series, we have Jess Findley and Janis Gallego. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you all.
Hi, glad everybody's here. I'm excited to share about LAWtina. I'm Jess Findley. I'm at the University of Arizona College of Law, and I'm a double wildcat. I have both my JD and PhD from the University of Arizona. And I am currently a professor of practice and director of bar and academic success here at the law school. Oh, you're muted.
And I'm Janis Gallego. I am also a double wildcat. I did both my undergraduate degree from the U of A as well as my law degree here at the U of A. I'm a Tucsonian through and through. My family's been here on both sides for more than I can count. And I am currently a professor of practice at the University of Arizona College of Law. And I'm actually, my full-time job is a practicing attorney here in Tucson, Arizona, as general counsel of a local construction company.
So I'll do a share screen. Share. Let me know if anybody, let's see, is it? Okay, everybody can see it. Okay, thanks, Carla. So I am excited to talk today with Professor Gallego about the LAWtina mentoring program. So here's our general plan for today. We'll talk about the inspiration for the program, the overview, give an overview of the curriculum, and then talk about our outcomes and data, and still have time for questions and discussion at the end. So first, I'll share a little bit about what inspired the LAWtina mentoring program. And I'll start with this quote that we received from a student survey. And the student said, I'm very glad I joined this course because it has given me a lot of insight to law school and what it actually means to be an attorney. And law school is unlike any other professional degree. Unlike many other graduate programs, it doesn't require a specific prerequisite or even a particular undergraduate major for admission. And that flexibility can be a real strength of a law degree, but it also means that many students arrive unsure of what a career in law actually looks like. And it leaves some wondering whether they truly belong in the legal field. And this is particularly challenging for first generation students or for anyone who hasn't had access to the same educational opportunities or networks that their peers may have access to. And for the legal profession, Latinas are especially underrepresented. Although they make up roughly 10 to 12% of the US population, they only account for about 2% of all lawyers. So it's not a slight underrepresentation, it's a significant drop off. And it underscores why improving access to legal education is so important. So in 2018, I was asked to write a grant for the University of Arizona College of Law. And I was given a lot of freedom in shaping that proposal. And one thing that particularly interests me was our BA in Law program. It's the first undergraduate law program of its kind in the country. And it sits at a fascinating intersection between legal education and broader access. And one thing that struck me when I dug into the data was that the BA in Law program attracts a remarkably diverse student population, one that's far more diverse than the typical JD program. At the time, 25% of the BA in Law students were Latina. And that showed me something of interest, that the interest in law is strong, but it isn't consistently translating into students pursuing legal careers. The other thing that the University of Arizona has is the recognition as a Hispanic Serving Institution. And this creates an additional opportunity to support Latina students in higher education. So what occurred to me with LAWtina is that we can build on the strengths of both the BA in Law program and the university's HSI designation to create a more engaging, supportive experience for Latinas using mentoring, community building, and instruction. So in 2019, we received the funding to make the LAWtina program a reality. So in developing the program, we drew upon research about improving student success in STEM fields at Hispanic Serving Institutions. And that research highlights a consistent finding of when institutions provide intentional access to mentoring, advising, and academic support, student outcomes improve. And so we realized those same principles apply to improving access to legal education. So for what we saw was there are two paths for Latina students interested in law. One path is at the top, and it offers structured support, which includes early exposure to the legal field, meaningful mentoring relationships, that as well as academic and career advising, and financial counseling. And this pathway helps ensure that students start envisioning themselves in the profession and enables them to build confidence and ultimately feel prepared to pursue a JD if that's the direction they want to go in. The other path leaves students to navigate things on their own. And when that happens, even highly motivated students can end up feeling unprepared, unsure, and disconnected from opportunities that are available to them. So our program is designed to ensure that students are never on the second path. oops. I might have gone too far. Yes. So the program was developed using community collaborations on multiple fronts. After I received the grant funding, I worked closely with Marla Franco, the special advisor to the provost for the HSI. And through this process, I was introduced to Professor Gallego, who initially served on the advisory committee and is now serving as the instructor for the course. And the advisory committee helped leverage their connections in the legal community to recruit mentors, and most of whom are women of color with JDs. And they come from a wide background of experiences. And to ensure that the curriculum was relevant to students, we also surveyed LAWtina attorneys in Tucson and Pima County about the resources that they wish they had access to as students and the information they wish they had known when applying to law school. So both using the advisory committee and the survey input, we directly shaped the design of the program. And now I'll turn it over to Professor Gallego to talk about the program overview.
Yeah, so now the program, to kind of talk a little bit here about the idea of mentorship and how we've structured this program. We thought we'd show this quote from a student who was in one of our cohorts who shared, "I just wanted to take the time to really thank you for preparing me for the real world. My dream of going to law school seemed far away and maybe at times inaccessible. But after taking this course and seeing how successful you guys are, along with the other amazing women I met on the way, I am beyond excited for law school." And we have some program goals. So with the program, the goal is for the students and the participants to understand what the law school admission process is, meaning what is necessary in that application, right? So that is a personal statement, that is your resume, it's your test scores, it's your GPA, all of those components that are necessary, the letters of recommendation. We talk to the students about how to ask for letters of recommendation. When should you? How do you do that? How do you build those relationships with faculty, supervisors that can write a really good letter of recommendation for you in order for you to be successful in law school? And when I present on that topic in the class, I share about my own experience about how I developed those relationships with faculty when I was an undergraduate student at the U of A and how that shaped my application, because those people who wrote those letters of recommendation were able to talk about me in a way I wasn't able to talk about myself, and were able to talk about me in ways that kind of showed why I'd be a great fit in different aspects. I had one professor who was at the journalism program who's since passed away, but he was able to really write about those things I wasn't wanting to share about myself, right? I'm a first generation college student. My parents both attended the university, but didn't finish. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was a good student. And he was like, no, this is a big deal. And because of him and the way he wrote about me, I got scholarship money to go to law school. So I think it's just really important. We tell those students about how to go visit your professors during office hours so that way you have those relationships. I still keep in touch with one of the other professors that wrote my letter of recommendation, and I graduated from law school many, many moons ago. So we really talk about those professional relationship with your faculty, but also with their mentor and how to leverage that network. And so really learning about that networking and what it really means and how they're naturally already doing it, but they may not know. We also teach them about financial wellness and other wellness, so both their financial, physical, mental. So we teach them what is it going to take to pay for law school. We know a lot of these first generation students are a little hesitant because they worry about things like student loans and how are they going to pay for law school if they can't work, because you're not allowed to work your first year in law school. And we really teach them about how it's an investment and how to get student loans, but what type of student loans you should be getting. So we have someone who comes in and explains that all to them, and just basic financial wellness. And then we have someone who really comes in and talks to the students about mental health. And those are life skills that would be great in law school, great when they're a profession, but just when they're busy trying to stay finance. We also provide access to the various admissions exam preps, and we give them access and pay for a test prep course for them to take. There are various different testing options for students now. There weren't when I was a student or Dr. Findley was a student, but now there's both the LSAT, there's the GRE, and then there's the JD Next. So really explaining to students what that means for them, what law schools they can apply with which exam scores, and what would be the best for them. And then we really focus on developing and pursuing their own professional goals and vision, and really crafting who they are and how that's going to help them, not just for their law school applications, but any sort of career they choose to pursue. So it is a 1-unit pass-fail class that we offer in the spring semesters. We really, like Dr. Findley said, we created this curriculum with input from practicing lawyers in the community, including myself. We really focus on that growth mindset. So we really talk to the students about the growth mindset. We speak on resilience and goal setting. We talk again, like I mentioned, about the applications. What is an admissions exam prep? What does that look like? How much time should you be spending? Should you take a prep course? What does the application process look like? What is the application cycle? When should you be getting your application materials together? And what should be in those application materials, and how much time should you be spending on your personal statement? Letting a student know you're going to write that personal statement probably a dozen different times. And that's okay, because you're going to go through those revisions and you're going to have people who are going to give you feedback, and that's a good thing. But you need to allow that time to be built in. And you need to build in the time that perhaps you're not the best test taker. Then you need to take a prep course. And it's really about learning how to test for that. Not that you're not a smart student, but testing for a standardized test like the LSAT or even JD Next is a very different thing. And really getting students to figure out what works best for them. Wellness, finances, stress management, and overall happiness. How are you going to manage? Not only is law school going to be stressful, the profession of being a lawyer is a stressful profession, but just the whole process of applying to law school itself is stressful. I remember going through it, and no one in my family had gone to law school or since has gone to law school since I was going through it. And my parents were so supportive of me, but they just didn't know the stress of it. They didn't realize the stress of it was going with all my extracurricular activities as a student and living that great experience and really taking advantage of all the opportunities at the U of A, plus working part-time, plus going to school, plus I pretty much had another part-time job and I'm trying to apply to law school. And they just weren't able to support me in that way. Because they just didn't know the things that I needed to be able to manage the stress of applying to law school and then waiting months after you apply to find out where you're going to law school and if you get in. We really teach the students through the mentorship about their professional identity. What does that look like? What does your reputation look like? The legal community is a small community and people know everybody. And so that really starts when you're in law school, but it starts even before that. So really working with the mentors to really drill that into the students with advising. Both Dr. Findley and I spend a lot of time one-on-one with the students. We will review the students' application materials one-on-one throughout the semester. So at the midpoint of the semester, we will review their personal statement with them. We'll give them feedback. And at the end of the semester, their final project requires them to put all of the application materials together. And so we work with them with a personal statement. They also get feedback from their mentors on that. One of the things that they also do is shadowing. So each student is required to spend 4 hours of the semester. They're up to do more. And we've had students who are doing 4 hours a week at one point, but to really go and do some sort of shadowing opportunity with either their attorney that they've been partnered with or with someone else that they can go and get that experience, just because some attorneys don't go to court. I'm one of those. I never go to the courtroom, but I be able to provide those opportunities to students to go do that or to observe other opportunities. And then we really want to make sure that our class is culturally relevant. We want to make sure students understand what race looks like in the legal profession and how it comes to be and how to handle those comments that are going to be made to them inevitably in the legal profession about their race, ethnicity, and gender, and how do they do that. We talk about what is their identity as a Latina student and what that does that look like and how that's really defined by who they are, not defined by other people, and how it's something to be embraced and be showcased, and how that makes them unique and different, and how to talk about that in their personal statement so that they stand out. And it's really about how is everything that is about them a unique opportunity to talk about who they are and why they want to go to law school, and what are those biases that they're going to encounter throughout their career and how to navigate those. We have a really great mentor who comes in and who's also an employment attorney, and she comes in and talks about those awkward conversations you have in job interviews when people will make comments that are just, you kind of go like, I don't know if they're allowed to be saying that. Probably not, but how do you navigate that situation? Someone makes a comment that is somewhat of a micro or macro aggression against one of your various identities. We really focus on those experiential opportunities. We think it's a really big part of the course, and it's something our students have really provided a lot of feedback in a positive way. It's a big piece of the curriculum that has always been focused on exposing our participants to what it's meant to be a lawyer, so they could start to build that professional identity. Being a lawyer is not what you see on Law and Order. It's not what you saw in the movie Legally Blonde. It's not Suits. It's very different and in many ways. And so really getting students to see what it is to be a lawyer on a day-to-day basis. We really view this as a critical piece. And since many of our students are first generational college students, some, but not all are, but even then they are the first member of their family to go to law school. They may have never even met a lawyer before starting this course. They may not know a lawyer. Although my parents, like I said, went to the U of A, they didn't graduate. I had known who lawyers are, but even then, right, it is a whole very different process. If no one in your family's ever gone to law school, if no one in your family is a lawyer, just navigating what it's going to be like is something very foreign. We also are intentional in hosting 2 in-person networking events, one at the beginning of the semester. We actually have our very first class session is focused on networking and what networking looks like. And then the following week, they actually apply those skills for their networking with not only their mentor, but all of the mentors in the program, as well as alums of the program as well. So they can put it into practice. And we really do a good job of keeping students in loop of any other opportunities that we get wind of by other mentors, by other people across campus and in the greater Tucson community, to attend professional opportunities so they can grow that network and grow their professional identity. So they're doing things like shadowing, they're going on court tours. We bring in a lot of community speakers. So we bring in people not just in the legal community, but outside the legal community who come and speak on things. We do those great networking events. We also put them in touch and have opportunities for them to network with current U of A law students. We have a number of U of A law students who are alums of the LAWtina program. And we actually create an opportunity for them to go and observe a law school class. And so they can see exactly what is it like. Although they're in the bachelor's program and it's going to be somewhat similar, it's also somewhat different. But that way they can not only observe the class, they do the homework and reading for that class ahead of time. We get it from the professor so they can sit in and be informed in the class, and then they can talk to students afterwards to get a sense of what that experience was like. And some of the tangibles that we have for our students are they complete that law school application. So like I mentioned, at the end of the semester, they will have all of the elements, that's their final assignment. So they have to have their resume, their personal statement, or a draft of their personal statement, knowing that especially if they're a freshman or sophomore, that personal statement is going to evolve over their junior and senior year. We have them do that. They have to register for LSAC because that's the clearinghouse where all the application materials are going to go. So they have to show proof of that. And then they have to either ask for this letter of recommendation, or if they're a freshman or sophomore, it's too early to do that. They have to be able to write a email to a professor or a supervisor or an advisor of a club or organization they're part of that says exactly why they're asking for the personal statement, by when do they need the personal statement, the documents they would attach to allow the person who's writing the letter of recommendation for that, and put in all of that together. And that's all put together, and we review that and determine if they've completed the course. The other thing is they're getting some great professional peer contacts and strategies for maintaining their network. We have noticed that a lot of the students create their own little network amongst each cohort, and then sometimes around the other students who have taken the class as well. So it's creating this really great system. They either do the LSAT or other admissions exam prep. We provide that for them free of cost. And then all of those great wellness strategies that sometimes I wish I knew when I was a 19-year-old college student about wellness and taking breaks and what that looked like. I think a lot of underrepresented students have a lot of family pressure and feel like they need to be at the top of their game all the time. And they don't know about taking breaks, and it's okay. And you need that. Your brain needs that. Build those breaks into your day. Take that hour to go outside for a walk. Take that hour to go spend time with friends and family and de-stress from school life. It'll still be there. and then really looking to have them create those goals of what are those professional goals that incorporate their unique qualities. Do they want to go become an immigration attorney? Do they want to do international business? Do they do want a patent law? All the different types of law. Maybe they don't want to go work in a law firm. Maybe they don't want to ever go to court like me. I don't want to go to court. But really also educate them to all the different things that you can do with a legal degree and a legal education that students might not think of. Things where you could be the head of a compliance for a major corporation. You could be running an HR department. You could be running a contracts department for an aviation company. So all the different things that you can possibly do. You can go work in higher ed. So all the different things you can do with a legal education and how it opens up so many doors for you that you may not realize.
Now I'll talk a bit more about our outcomes in the program. Here's a quote I love from a student, and the student said, "I took my LSAT last week and my brain almost exploded. Thank you guys for motivating us and mentoring us through the course we took. It was so helpful, and I am now seeing the results of how much you guys helped me with the process. I'm not stressing about my resume or cover letter. I'm just praying my score is really high so I can start applying." And this student is now in law school. So we have, and I'll talk a bit more about our outcomes in that regard. So I did want to share a bit about our program recruitment. Program recruitment takes place in the fall, typically in October. And we make special efforts to notify students who are identify as LAWtina and are enrolled in the BA in Law program with GPAs of 2.75 or higher. Since this GPA it's usually the minimum required for many law schools, so that's why we designated that GPA as a priority. So we'll recruit by sending special emails about the program, just informing students of the availability of the program and sending them the link to the online application. We also notify all BA and law students about how to complete the program application, so anyone can express interest. And then we score the applications to determine who is admitted to the program. Class size is intentionally limited by the number of available mentors because I said that kind of a funny way, but we are constrained somewhat by the number of mentors. So we typically also are simultaneously recruiting mentors. And our goal is to have one-on-one mentoring. So we try to assess the number of mentors and then make sure that we have enough mentors for each student. Typically, we have about 18 students and mentors per cohort, but occasionally we've had slightly more than that. And this ensures that the one-on-one mentoring ensures that each student receives personalized guidance and support throughout their experience.
And this year, we increased our recruitment efforts even further in the fact that because of some recent recognition of the program, we had more students who knew about it. There was opportunities where we reached out to people who work in the Thrive Center and who are academic advisors across campus that I had connections with to help promote the program and reach out and send information out to their students that they work with. We also had the opportunity where one of our students who serves as a research assistant for the program was able to talk about the program and promote the link for students to complete the application on social media platforms.
So in spring 2020, we launched the pilot program using a similar recruitment process, and we were able to enroll 19 students. And this group became our treatment group. At the end of the semester, these students who participated in the pilot completed a survey about their knowledge of the law school application process, as well as a program evaluation. At the same time, we also sent the survey to all BA and law students and to students in other majors that typically feed into law school as a way to evaluate the overall BA and law program. But from this larger group, we used a technique called propensity score matching. And this method allows us to have a quasi-control group. So we identify students with similar backgrounds and characteristics to the LAWtina participants from that broader survey to serve as a control group. So we could see whether there were meaningful differences between those who participated in the program and those who did not. And this table provides a demographic summary of the two groups. In many ways, the LAWtina cohort appears to face greater barriers. If you notice, a higher percentage are Pell Grant recipients and first-generation college students compared to the peer comparison group. And by focusing initially on LAWtina students, we not only provide target support for them as a historically underrepresented group, but we're also able to generate insights that benefit all students who might be similarly positioned. And here are our highlights. We were and we are still quite excited by the results we observed. LAWtina students were almost 33% more likely than their peers to report an interest in a legal career, 94% compared to 72%. They were also more likely to take concrete steps toward law school. 61% enrolled in an LSAT prep course compared to 22% of their peers. More completed personal statements for law school and applications. We saw that was 44% of LAWtinas versus 28% of the peer group. And they also LAWtinas prepared application resumes at significantly higher rates, 94% compared to 61%. And year after year, the course evaluations show that the program not only educates students about the law school application process, but it also provides invaluable mentoring and a safe environment for exploring their future careers. The results of our 2022 to 2024 cohorts have been consistently positive, demonstrating that the program is meeting its goals. And for example, in 2024, 92% of students reported an interest in a legal career, 92% created a resume, 54% developed a personal statement, and 92% indicated that they learned an exceptional amount in the course. We also conducted a recent survey of program alumni, and 25% are currently in law school or have been admitted to law school, and 62% have plans to apply. And I think we have 2 LAWtinas in the 1L class right now at the law school.
Yeah, so we have 2 current members that previously that were part of one of the cohorts that are currently U of A law students, and we have had a number, and we have students who are 2Ls. I think we have 2 or 3 who are also in our cohort who are law students at the U of A, and we have a couple that are 3Ls as well. So we are consistently seeing, and that's just here at U of A Law School. This is not me. I know we have a number of students who are actually, we have a couple. I know one stands out that she's in law school in California right now. And so we have students kind of across the country who are in law school. We also have had students in the program who maybe don't go and get a GED, but have completed a master's in legal studies as well.
Yeah. And here's a special story. And this is just like the most heartwarming story. So Sophia is one of our students who participated and now a graduate who participated in LAWtina in the pilot cohort. And she became best friends with another student in the LAWtina program, and they roomed together throughout law school. And then Sophia's mentor was, and I guess still is, Helena Seymour, who is a commissioner at the juvenile court currently. And so when Sophia graduated from law school and was admitted to the bar, Helena swore her in and had a big ceremony. And now both Sophia and her roommate are mentors to other interested law students. And so it's really a touching story. But what I love about it is it does show that there's that long-term impact, not only for the student, but also for future students, because the community really feeds itself and continues to grow.
And to kind of add on that, Sophia was also a researcher assistant while she was in law school, helping us with the class because she cared so much about the impact the class made on her, and how she wanted to give back to the program. And the other thing that's been really unique is not only do we have this great network amongst the participants in the program, the LAWtinas, but also the network of mentors. So I have made friends with attorneys and judges in the legal profession that have served as mentors that I never probably put their paths I have not crossed. And so now that has, and now those people talk to other friends of theirs about how much they enjoyed the experience of being a LAWtina mentor. That just happened recently. There was a couple people I know who were like, oh, there's an attorney here in town who didn't know about the program, but she knew me and another lawyer because of another professional group, and she's Latina. And she was like, what is this program? And one of the other students like, you need to go talk to Janis. Janis is the instructor for the program. She's like, sign me up. What can I do? I care about this. I care about our legal profession being diverse. How can I do? Sign me up. I will be a mentor. Didn't even ask about the time commitment. She was like, I want to. This sounds amazing. How can I give back to the community? Someone else was a mentor for the first time last year, and then it was somebody I worked with and I recruited. And they're like, they told another person in our at the place I worked at the time, and was like, and this person was like, how can I sign up to be a mentor? Sign me up. Where do I sign up? So I think that's the other really great is there's becoming a great network of mentors because the mentors are in different parts of their legal career. They may be 2 years out of law school, or they may be 25 years out of law school. And so they're also creating those professional relationships. So it's really creating this very larger network of attorneys, judges, and law students and bachelor's in law students. And some of these students, like Sophia, will keep those relationships up. I hear from friends of mine who've served as mentors, and they still get coffee and lunch with people who were their mentored, who are now just who are in their senior year maybe, and who were, they started mentoring them 2 years ago when they were in the program.
And I love Sophia's quote here. I didn't read it earlier, but I think it really highlights what the program is about. And for just to read it for anyone who I'm not sure if it's legible for people, but one thing she says is, I'm the first lawyer in my family, and in other experiences, my parents were able to help me in my goals. But this was so foreign to us that I couldn't really ask for their advice. I knew that I always had their support, but they didn't know how to help me in this. So getting that help and guidance changed everything for me. And that really is, to tie it back to what the program initiated with the two paths. Like, we really wanted students to feel that guidance and support was available so they could navigate that path to law school, which is quite unique from other disciplines, and that they weren't alone in figuring it out. And we are seeing our students find success having that support through the mentoring and advising that the program offers. So we have a few key takeaways that we'll conclude with. And the first is that intentional design aspect. We really looked at the research in improving success for students in STEM courses at HSI institutions when we were creating the program, and drew upon that as guidance for how we developed our program. And that research indicated the value of mentoring and advising. So we really tried to ingrain that in the curriculum, in the culture of the program. We also have been continuing to assess the progress with data. So we're continually tracking outcomes and how in students' understanding of the process to applying to law school, and making adjustments where needed to ensure that they are getting what they need from the program.
And then really our another big tip is engaging the community. So the community can be engaged in multiple ways to support these students. They serve as experts, their course assistants, their instructors, as I am, their advisors, their mentors, their guest speakers. We have people, like I mentioned, throughout the community who come in. We have the person who comes in and traditionally does our whole class session on wellness. She is not an attorney. She happens to be a trained therapist, but was a student at the U of A back when she did her undergraduate degree and really cares about this program. And she was someone we engaged with when she worked years ago at the university, now is on to other career paths. And we engaged her about the program and about the wellness component and got her to participate. And now she regularly gives up her time to the program every year to do this really interesting, interactive, engaging experience. And then we've kind of done that with some of our speakers where we're in the process right now, getting ready for next semester. And we have our speakers pretty much set, and we're already reaching out to them to get on their calendars because these are all very busy professionals who have busy work lives and personal lives. But they always say, let me know. Let me know when the class is coming up. Let me know so I can get on my calendar. I want to come and give it my time. I want to come and do this session about, right? We utilize campus resources where faculty and other disciplines across the campus. We have someone from the Spanish department who comes in and does a whole thing about language and Latinx identity and how that interplays and how it has evolved over the last 50 years. So really educating people, and we're really fortunate that we have people who care about the program and who are so supportive in that way that they give of their time consistently to the program and are always asking how else they can support the program.
And the other piece is the prioritizing professional identity formation. As we saw at the beginning, that quote at the beginning where the student says, this really showed me what it was like to be a lawyer. And having those experiential opportunities where students get to actually see what being a lawyer is about, and helps them understand where they can fit into the legal profession and what their unique experiences can contribute as a legal professional. And I really, it's really fun. On a personal note, I love seeing how students who haven't ever met a judge, for example, run up to me and say, oh my God, I never met a judge, and now a judge is my mentor. And seeing how excited they are to actually see and get to know people that work in the field they're interested in, and that it's always been a dream. And a lot of times it does feel unattainable because they really don't have those connections. And so connecting those personal those mentors to the students helps them identify where they can flourish. And so that's always important for them to decide that they ultimately do want to apply for law school.
And some of them that reaches that, I think it goes beyond just that. So maybe they want to take a year or two off to focus on their application process, and they want to get some professional experience. We have a student who was in the cohort a couple years ago who got a job working at Pima County Superior Court. She got a position that normally would go to law students, but because of the relationship, because of the application materials, because of how she interviewed and utilized the network and the skills she learned in this class, she beat out people to be a court clerk that normally would probably go to a law student. And I saw her earlier this year, and now she's ready to start looking at putting her materials together to apply to go to law school. But not only did she get the encouragement from this class, she's getting out the encouragement from her boss, which is the judge at the courthouse, and other people to encourage her to go to law school. And now she has this real life experience that she can talk about in her law school applications about why she wants to go to law school and make her stand out. So I think that's the other part that's really unique is we have these students who are getting these opportunities and really passing those opportunities to their classmates as well. So students will find out, hey, I heard about this opportunity or this club or this thing. And so I think and for me, the end of the semester, I'm always so excited when the students come up to me and tell me, they give me a handwritten thank you card because of the class, or right. And we teach them about thank you notes and everything in the class. But it's probably the most rewarding thing that I do. And I think for me, especially, I see myself in these students. And years ago, I had a student in another program that I teach in who told me that I was like a unicorn to them. And she's a Latina. She's actually an attorney in Phoenix now. And she was like, Professor Gallego, you're a unicorn because me and my classmates don't see anyone that looks like us. And now I do. I see someone who looks like me, who's achieved, who can do things, who's done what we've always dreamed of doing. And that means the most to me, that these 18 to 20 students in the class see themselves in me and see that they can accomplish their goals.
And that's our formal presentation. I don't know if and we're happy to take questions now. And Carla, I know you might be the one letting us know what those are.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I just want to say thank you both. I mean, I love that you all integrated, data, both like qualitative and quantitative. I love that you all talked about, the way in which this has evolved, right? How it maybe started off and how it's kind of going now, how you all are showing, right, like the impact not only within kind of the classroom space, and the campus, but obviously out in the community too. Something that they did not mention that I do want to mention is they were recognized by Excelencia in Education, which is a national nonprofit organization doing really incredible work in the educational sphere, especially in higher ed. But they were recognized as finalists, the LAWtina mentoring program,
Mhm.
as a program that really highlights again this idea of servingness, this idea of helping students reach their goals, whether that is obviously to graduation, but whether it is through like internships and mentorships and programs and initiatives, and feeling that sense of belongingness. So I know that Jess and Janice were out in DC for that recognition. And so I think, we know here at the university, I know what amazing work you all do, but it is truly amazing, right? That on a national level, this program is being talked about and looked about, right? We don't have programs like this across the nation. And so I want to commend you all for the incredible work you're doing. So we do
Thank
have
you.
some time for some Q&A. So if folks want to throw anything in the chat, we're happy to answer. But we do have, as always, have a few questions for you all to just talk a little bit more about the program. And then, of course, we have our last, and I'll leave that to the end, but our last overarching question that I will ask our presenters here today. But one of the questions, you all did talk a little bit about, right, like how this program came to be given, where we're located, our designation as an HSI, right? And so curious, how do you all, and you talked a little bit about how you've, brought your mentors, some of them are past folks who have gone through the program, but, with the mentors in particular, right, how are you all maybe training or preparing them to really engage with the student population, and to do kind of that identity affirming mentorship?
Yeah, we in the pilot we developed training materials for the mentors that did focus on like growth mindset and how to be a good mentor, and we used other partnerships on campus. The people that Professor Gallego knew who worked in were therapists and like could do a good presentation to teach the mentors how to be good mentors and to understand. And then we provided other resources as well. So they had short training and then additional resources that focus on like how to talk to mentees, like how to ask good questions, how to try to approach them without judgment, and be good supports for students.
And then what we do still is we check in with both the students and the mentors and the mentees a couple times a semester. So about halfway through the semester, we will send out a survey to all the mentors to see how things are going. Is their mentee engaging? Are they responding to their emails, to their text messages, to their phone calls, to these these experiential opportunities that they're providing, right? We've had students who've been are able to sit on depositions, who go to court and observe a hearing, who help sit in on client interviews because their their mentor has been able to provide those opportunities for them. So we do that, and then we check in with the mentees, the participants in the program as well, to see how is your mentor doing. Is your mentor engaging? Or hey, my mentor's not responding to email, so then we'll reach out to the mentor and find out, is there something going on in their work or life that's not letting them be the best mentor they want to be that semester. And so we do that kind of both ways, but then that way we can help kind of make sure that the students and the mentors are getting the most out of that relationship.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And I think, right, it's so important because I think, I've also worked in higher ed for over 10 years. And sometimes mentoring is like, okay, how do we do this? And, every profession and area needs to be a little bit different and tailored. And so I love that you all kind of have those consistent check-ins with folks.
And we do try to, just to add one more thing, we do try to pair our mentors and mentees using, we have a cute little survey that's like, are you a dog mom or a cat lady? Are you a yogi or like a trailblazer? So to try to, one, find out generally how they categorize their interests. And then we also look at what areas of law, and to the extent we're able, we try to pair the mentors and the students in a way that that they have stuff in common for to make hopefully help the pairing be successful.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. I love the cute
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah.
Uh, so, part of why we do, this work and even like our webinars, is to share, right? Share knowledge, folks to maybe hear and be inspired to maybe create something similar, but obviously that really fits with their institution or the community work that they might be doing. So, maybe if you can just talk a little bit about, were there any either foundational steps or partnerships that have been really instrumental in and ensuring that this is a program, right, that continues and is sustainable.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is like we talked about. I when I got the grant funding, I initially wanted to work really closely with the HSI and make sure that I had the right people on the team for the project to be successful. And finding people like Professor Gallego, who is committed and dedicated to the work and who is willing to show up year after year to help support the program. And then using her connections, because a lot of the people that are part of the bigger team who are the outside speakers, I met through Professor Gallego and others, and so having that advisory committee, having the people that like understand the program and share the motivation to help it succeed, I think is really critical for a long-term success.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you our overarching question that we ask all our panelists. So for you all, the work that you do and just, having been, here in Tucson or the university for quite a while, what next steps do you think are needed to build institutional capacity around HSI serving this?
Um, well, one thing I think is trying to infuse the values and the goals into other like the policies and other programs. So some of the goals are shared across the community. So keeping that in mind and at the forefront of the work and understanding where they can be incorporated more broadly, I think is it would helps make sure that those values are serving students and are intentional.
And I think I would build on that. It's really looking at how to, we get lots of requests for students about why is this only offered in the spring semester, or could we have another cohort at other time, and really looking for that institutional support I think one thing that people don't realize, like this does cost money, right? We provide the test prep, we provide these network routines, all that's costing us money. And really making sure that the institution is behind that and really supporting that. And I know the College of Law is very supportive of our program because I know the admissions office is seeing firsthand these students are walking in their doors and they're hearing about the program, but really seeing how this program can grow maybe in just a smaller, version and a different type of cohort, but really looking at how it goes beyond just HSI status, but goes to what does it look like for those other represented groups. Like Dr. Findley said, our mentors are not all Latinas. They are all people who identify as female and who are members of underrepresented groups. So they all have similar experiences, but really looking at how we can expand the program even further to include more of the students. Even if we just grow the program to be able to have 25 students, that means we need more mentors. And what does that look like? And more funding. So really knowing that, this is a thing I think that the university can see that statistically it's working. It's not just anecdotally, but statistically the data is showing that it's successful. And to be able to have members of our legal community, in 3 to 5 years who are reflective of our community and are reflective of the culture of our community, I think is important because they can have that empathy with their clients in a way that others maybe cannot.
No, absolutely. I think you all shared just incredible work and the data speaks for itself, right? Like y'all's program is very powerful and it's moving right that needle forward. And it's a perfect example, right, of servingness and of serving all of our students, really, right? That these are types of programs that are needed for all of our students, but in particular, many of our underrepresented students. So thank you all for the work that you do. And so I just again want to thank you all for taking some time out of your busy day to present to us and to share a little bit more about the LAWtina mentoring program. As I've kind of already said, but y'all are showing and modeling for us, right, what kind of authentic engagement, genuine engagement, not only with our students, but our community partners and our campus can look like and should look like. So again, thank you both for being here. And I just want to share that our next webinar is scheduled for December 11th, our last one of the year, as always at 1 p.m. Arizona time. And we will be working with some folks who are going to share a little bit about some binational HSI faculty seed grants. And so it's particularly around the use of photo voice and pop-up exhibits through the lens of care consciousness and community within the borderlands. So again, thank you, Janice and Jess. Super exciting. This is, as always, recorded, will be uploaded to YouTube and shared through our social media platforms, and we will see you all later. Thank you, everyone.